Hello. I'm going to show you how I've decided I can do this basket with a racetrack base, which means it has a slot in it. This is a 5 by 14, and I need to make some marks on my base so I know where to put my pieces. I have taken a piece of paper and done half because this is 14. The paper's only 8.5. I'm going to do half at a time. First thing I did was put it here, trace it very carefully. Now I want to make this here, here, here. So I'm just making a little mark on the side in the center. That to go there. And this is just where I'm going to put my pieces to start. So I'm using 1/2 inch. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm using 5/8. I'm going to put the hairy side, if there's any hairy to it, but absolutely smooth side down. I'm going to put one centered on this mark and one I've decided here. This, the left side of that mark. Now I'm going to fill in between. And I want at least, for me, 1/4 inch between each one, because when I go to lace with a 1/4 inch lacer, I want the space between them to work. So in my notes, I wrote that I have 5 of them between here and here. I did this all earlier, figured out the math kind of thing. And these, you just wiggle them in there, and the slot can be a little tricky, but there we go. Gotta have 1/4 inch though. That one doesn't look quite like 1/4, but let's see. Can always wiggle the one on the corner a little bit in and out. Alrighty, I think that's good. Now I'm gonna do mine in sections because sometimes these guys are loose and they'll fall out. So I just want to do this in a small section. I am using a number 2 round reed that has been soaked. Put one end here to start. I'm just gonna poke it in that opening. Grab another one. Okay, and in there. Straighten this out. And see, they want to wiggle. So let's just do a few at a time. I'm coming over here and over here. So the first one is an over and then go under. Push them in just as tight as you can. I use a small tool if I have to get them right up close to the edge, because this is the only thing holding these guys in the slot when you're done. So the one that was on top goes underneath. Top, underneath. So I keep grabbing the one that is on the top and put it underneath. Now these will stay in place. See that? I've got a good, they're locked right in there. Straighten them up. And now I'll add some more. So what I have found for 5/8, this, I'm going to put the weaver aside. 5/8, one in the center, and if they're snug, you can either try a new one. You got to use that one eventually, but the next place may not be as tight. So I want to get 4 between here and here. So I am doing 1. Here's one that was a little tight a minute ago, but it might not be tight here. That one's thicker, it's tight. Let's grab another one for now. I was going to use a knife or a scarfing tool to shave the end a bit, but grabbing another one for this purpose is fine. Just get another one here. Okay, let's get that in there. Get some space. Now I've got a little more room than on the side. It's just the way the curve worked out. The thing is, I don't have enough room to put one more. So I'm gonna wiggle these over quite a bit. And then the one that was on top, let's see. This is the one on top. It's now this. Come around. Whoops, get back in there. You have to talk to them. You have to show them who's boss by pushing them right in there. And the next one, there you go. Next, and we're adding pieces again. This takes a little bit of time setting it up, but it's well worth it. So what I'm noticing is if I needed to grab a little room, I have more space here than I wanted. I could move from this mark, I could put my piece in the center of that mark as opposed to on the left side of that mark. And that would give me a little more space going down my straightaway. Because we aren't lacking for space between our spokes there. And I try them in one place if I don't like them, or if they don't want to go easily, I put them in another place. That slot must be really hard to cut. There. So again, we are back to where were these before we laid everything added to it. So this one needs to be on top, under. You know me, I love my unders. Under, everything's about the under. That gets twisted. That's why I never work with this stuff, but I'm finding it has its purposes. So the last one back, you're going to look at that, push that in there. That's one of the things that can get away from you on the corner. You really want those pushed up tight. Now see, that's really buckled. You have to take care of that. Need that in there. Need that. Pull it right in. And like I said, I have a tool that I use on occasion. It's a tool much like this, a packing tool, but it's just a smaller version. Okay, now this is a bit tricky because I want to see what I'm doing. Find my center, get half. I'm using 36 pieces of 5/8, cut 7 inches long. I cut a little long in case of mistakes. I'd rather cut a little off than have to grow a bit in the middle. I've never mastered the growing. Now this one's thick and I know it's going to be a problem. You can feel them when you pick them up. So we got this one. Whoops, that slid right in there. What have I got here? Now I move that up a bit. And the reason I think I'm having a problem is some of these are just a little on the thick side. See, you don't have room. So how am I going to make that happen? I'm going to push this one, too much. This one a bit, this one a bit. And sometimes, depending on the pounds, some of them are a bit larger. The reeds are a little wider. I know. See, you might as well see. I don't do this easily either. I'm used to being really rough with my stuff and with my baskets, and these don't allow that. Okay, we're going to go back here. This up. Where was the last one we used? So we need, got this one is here, and the last one we used was there. So we're going to bring this one in. And this is what we're going to do all the way around. And as soon as I get it finished and put on a couple rows, I'll get back to you. Where we left off in our venture to make this basket, I was putting in the spokes. I wove the 2 rows around. I'm on actually a different basket than I showed in the first video. This doesn't have the little mustard strip, but it was a nice story about my pumpkin colors. Anyway, I have done something different. I usually don't start on a rounded area, but I found there's more overlap and it's just more forgiving. So we're going to do that. I'm going to go to the end here and weave our second row over, under. So we think about as under, and we're pulling this as tight in here as we possibly can. Round and round we go. This doesn't go quite as fast. Of course, it's only 1/4 inch. I weave a lot with 1/4 inch. I prefer 7mm, but it's been so thick that I can't seem to get a lot. Can't get something to start baskets with. So see, I pull this right in, turn my basket, not my body, poke that in there, but pull in here as tight as you possibly can, because there's nothing really holding these spokes in that base except these rows. And what will keep them in there is that we're going to turn the base upright. Now I had let this thing dry out because I started it yesterday and I had to spray it, which really isn't a good idea, but things just kept getting in the way. So here we go. around and back and tuck and snip nicely. There we are. Now I'm going to start on, let's see, I could go all the way to the other end. I probably should. Let's set a good example. I'm going to start here because I want to pull on those that tucked under. And I need this to stand up. Now normally we upset our spokes kind of briskly. This we're going to upset more gently. Weave behind the one we want to stand up and lift it up like such. If you pull too much, it'll cave in at the ends, so you don't want cave-ins. That's why if you can gently convince them nicely, and this is the only time I use that technique, when I am upsetting a base on a regular basket, I want to put my finger in there and bend, bend, bend. But for this, it's a rounded corner. I've already started my rows. The purpose of a bend on a regular basket is so that your first row can be pulled tight to the base. And that's your shape. But this has already been started with those rows of, see, I want this to go upright. There you go. Be gentle. And then be conscious of your overlap from before. Here we are. And you come around. Again, be gentle but convincing it to stand up. Do not do anything that's going to tug those out. As a matter of fact, I bought this tool, the packing tool, the small one, just for these kinds of baskets, because there's such a small area here and I need that thing to be tight. But our spacing is 1/4 inch, at least 1/4 inch between these, so that we can rim it, because we're going to use 1/4 flat for rimming. I'm going to lift again. I don't know if this is, I never read a book or saw anybody do this, so I'm on my own here. I've done a few, but it's been trial and error. I think people use smaller pieces and do much more delicate weave, but there is just not a delicate bone in my body. Something different. I'm used to weaving field baskets and sturdy baskets, so I'm not a big one for delicate. I'm more of a chunky girl. Okay. Now I want to make sure, that backed off a little bit on me. I feel it. Get this in here. The faithful clothespins. I gotta tell you, I love this lady at Lady and a Carpenter on Etsy. She has the best clothespins in the world. I've been using them for years and I wouldn't buy anything else. Okay, now we're gonna stand up the next row. Well, this one didn't really stand up. It kind of fell over. Just tightening it. So what we need is a row put on top of that to hold it where I put it. So let's go to the other end and start. Hairy or rough side goes in as always. I guess I always start on it over, then I can go over. I usually do. These baskets are a little different. I'm learning. You're learning with me. Boy, I like this mirroring thing. I can see what you're seeing. I used to videotape the whole thing, turn it on and watch it, and boy was I surprised. You would have been shocked. It wasn't what I thought it was. So there have been baskets I've videotaped 6 times. Then I found this neat program. This is called a power mirror. It's the only mirroring app that we found, and we bought another one, but would only mirror to my television. This allows me to mirror to my iPad. So my iPad's over there in the corner, and I can see exactly what you're seeing, isn't it? The technology's amazing. And if I had 2 more young people around, I would utilize it much more. But I only have my young graphic designer, or editor actually. He's taking film design now. He's going to film school. And he's been working on my stuff for years. But now he's doing it officially, so things hopefully will start looking up. There you go. You want to pack those in there and pull that tight. Yep, my end's nice. Standing up tight. Standing up straight. Second row around, stood it up straight. The third row holds it all down. So, this is where I started. I'm going to go over that piece, which is what I do from the outside. Usually I weave my baskets from the outside. Very rarely do I work inside. I like to weave on my lap. I'm sure you've heard that a time or two if you've watched one of my videos. Well, here we are. I think red is going to be our pattern. I want to coax this into being this shape. This is my insert. This is made by my neighbor. They do sell them, but I needed this for a class sooner than I could get a hold of an insert. So my neighbor made this guy for me out of poplar. I'm going to put it here, and it gives us a nice segmented basket. So I know I have my sides in the right place. This is going to work nicely. But the point of this little demonstration was that these sides are 3.5 inches. So I want to go at least 3.5 inches plus 1 so that this sits under the rim, but at least 3.5 inches from here to here. I don't want anything too wet because I'm going with red. And red, as you know, likes to bleed on all of its neighbors. I'm a lap weaver, so if I have my way, I'd come right here. And remember we said we're going to start on the corner? It's because that's so tight is why we're going to start on the corner. But on our corner, we are seeing that we have a piece that isn't in there nicely. As you go around, you see something wrong, make an adjustment. It's easier now than later. Again, I'm so used to doing my beginnings on a long side, but I'm going to put it here because I know there's more room and it's going to be easier to do an overlap with a little more space to work with. I'm pulling this out just because I'm doing a sort of an exaggerated weave around the basket, and to get it to go in that tight spot. And so I need to pull it out straight. Now see, when you have a piece that bends in like this one, see it's poking in? When a piece does that, that's going to be what your basket does. So I'm going to pull this out, make sure this is straight, not caved. So let's watch that now. And weave. We're going to pull a little bit because what I mean by I'm doing a very exaggerated weave. Well, that can get loose. That's why you see me, when I've woven a bit, I'm going to tug on that reed so that this doesn't have lumps in it. Pull those out. About every 6th weave, you want to give that a nice smart tug. And then you're back where you started. So let's try something with red. I'm going to go in here and turn it, tip it up. Love to tip it up. But if it slides on this table, let's see if I don't think it'll slide on the wood as much as that mat. And if it does, I could put down a towel and that will cause a little bit of resistance. Now, what you see me doing right here is I've decided that I wanted, I'm going inside and change this because I don't like it. And I'll show you what I don't like about it. I want my first color to be like my first natural, if I were weaving with a wider color. This is over, under, I want this one over. So that's why I changed it. I didn't want a color or my next one to be right here. It's just a personal preference and something I'm learning all the time. what I like, what I don't like, or how I want to use what I know how to do. Different times, like I said, I didn't like round bead for years. I cursed the stuff. Didn't even have any until I started making these. I had to go buy some. Then I had to dye some. Well, that all started with those silly round snowflake. Nope, they started with the corn. There's no better way to start off a corn than round reed. Round reed allows you to get everything in control before you start actually trying to make something. Actually, I'm really enjoying playing with pattern. Now what I'm doing is, see how tight these are? Don't like it. Not going to be able to rim that thing if they're that tight. Need to pull this down, that might help. Yeah, if you don't want to use, and you don't want to use your fingernails, I know they come attached. You don't have to hunt for them. And mine are acrylic, and yes, they're my nails. I paid for them. They're not my nails, natural nails. They're my nails by purchase, and I've done it for 20 years. So I'm pulling these apart so I can get some distance between things. It'll be easier to lace later. I'm always thinking about the end result. So this is going to come in here, and I've got to fix. I've got to add this back in since I broke it. Now you ask why I'm going to work really hard to poke those down in there, because once they get layers and rows on top of them, where are they going to go? So I'll snip them off so they don't snag whatever they've chosen to put in here. Let's go in here, cut a little extra because you can never add it back on. Let's do this. Now I have a pile of funny little tools. Okay, we're going to use this funny little tool. Actually, all you need to do is bend this here and poke it right in there next to poke the end next to the beginning. All one cycle. And I'll snip these off later, but right now I'm not going to fuss with them. Okay, let's add something else. Let's do the color. So I can put red right next to that. Ooh, I don't want to do that. I would need to do this. I need it at least to be different. Okay. This is what I have. I have over, under, under. And this is your other over. Or we could change it up and do something different. What I think I want to do is, instead of putting a red right next to this red, I think I want to put a natural and then my red, so I have a nice space in between. So this red will stand out. This little hole, you might ask yourself, why is there a hole in the middle of her base? Well, that little hole was put there by my husband. The hole is there to screw the divider into. And I want this to go straight up, so I'm going to give it a little what for. I think as usual, I've cut 6 inches, 6.5 or 7. I cut them longer and longer and longer because I always think a little bit extra is always better. We'll come over the place we started, right there. Let's snip this off so we don't get that inside to catch on anything. Now let's try that red again. See if I like it better this time. This is more of a burgundy, and we're going to start. I'm learning. I am learning. Start on the corner. See, it's much less likely to get mashed up. Still, these are a bit tight down the side. And I know you can hear this. I'm weaving a bit dry. This was wet. But I'm weaving dry because red is notorious for running. So I want to, let's see, I pulled out a wrinkle there. I want to weave it as dry as I dare. And this isn't really tricky, so I'm going to get away with it, I think. Time to get out the favorite snips. Give it a haircut. At least it can all be the same length. There we are. I don't want it to look like a checkerboard, so I think I'll do another one, but I'm going to start on the end. I think I'll use a little wider one in the middle. I tend to do a mirror image. I'll do the opposite of what I've done. As soon as I get to the center, I'll do the opposite of what I'm doing now. I usually weave with 5/8 is the smallest thing I weave most baskets with. And so this is a real challenge to me to work with something that is this narrow. If I were using my usual weavers, This basket will be 12 inches tall already. Let's get our thing out here and see how much pattern we can actually get. I like my pattern to be above the center. So here's a trick. I am going to mark my basket right here so I know where I have to be at least to here and then more on top. So I've got a few rows yet. I think I can, I'll change my mind again. I'm going to go with 1/2 inch instead of 5/8. 5/8 a little clunky on this. I am going to add 3/8. So we went from 1/4 to 3/8. It's a little bit wider. It's natural. I'm putting one row, I'm stop weaving it. The basket's pretty dry, but I don't want to wet it. If I needed moisture on this basket, and I may right now, I will take my friendly spray bottle and only spray this way. From my natural piece, if I'm going to need some moisture, it's going to be this way, not near that color. Now we do, isn't that pretty? 2 rows. I'm going to reverse my pattern. I'm going to do 2 rows of this. See, by then I'm going to be pretty close to where I need to stop. So, start on the corner. Actually, when I'm weaving these to sell and I'm doing them as a production, I put in 2 colors and weave them at the same time because I just don't like only weaving 1/4 of an inch at a time. And interesting class yesterday, I taught some kids that I taught 3 years ago. The boy was 7 and the girl was 9 then. And their mom brought them, homeschooled mother brought them for a backpack class. They all 3 made a pack in about 4.5 hours. Full size pack. My rule with kids under the age of 8 is, yes, they can come. The parent has to come and help them. I don't have time to work with one all by themselves. So I had 13 homeschooled children in the room and 7 parents, and it was amazing. They did such a wonderful job. Well, this time I was offering a more basic class, but they wanted to take it, and they did. And, so we're doing another whole homeschool section starting this Friday for that group of homeschool kids. They left there. The little boy took all of my wet materials. I didn't want them wet. I took them home, and their mom texted me this morning. She said they're in their pajamas sitting by the wood stove weaving baskets. When can we have another class? Because I had shown him a quiver, and he wants to make a quiver, and I said the sister could make anything she wanted. That girl came up with a 12 by 18 market basket, but she can do it. She can do just about anything she puts her mind to. But it was so nice to hear that they wanted to continue to do this, they enjoyed it enough to get up in the morning and work on their project. So everybody in that class had the prettiest baskets. Everyone was different. The shape was different. They all started out the same. But the colors they chose and the way they chose to lay them out, I would never have done such a thing. I have all I can do to work with 2 colors. So here, I think we've done all this we can do. We're going to do another band of this and see how close we're getting. Okay, so you want to think about those things when you're planning your pattern. Remember how we did the last time? There we go. So because I want this to be the same. And you won't notice until you're long done that it's different. And then if you're like me, it'll drive you nuts. This color is scarlet red with a great deal of green added to it. So it brings it around to one of my favorite burgundies. Here we go. We're nearly done. Here we go. can do this here. It's kind of easy to do this way. Ah, don't like those so tight right there. I'll show you what I'm going to do to rim this bugger. I think I'm going to cut it out a bit. Okay, we've got that there. Let's go see, where it ended. I want it to be, this ended here, so we're going to add it where we need to pick up the, there. What I'm doing is just skimming a little bit off both sides. It'll never be noticeable, but it will give me some room. So what do you think of my design? See this? I'm really loving this little bit of silliness, these borders on here, because they're so fine and delicate. Kind of go with this basket. And we are back where we started, which means snip, snip, and go inside. I'm working dry because of this red, and that's not my favorite thing. Lift that up. I love this tool for that as well. Just lift that up. Lift that. Put it in there. This one didn't stay either. So a little lift is going to help this a lot. So at this point, we need at least one more row. And we'll look at that after this row, where we need to be. I'm going back here, and I'm going to get that and overlap on that corner. See, this is going to help me. Don't you just love how that's going to help me here? See where I took out a little bit? It's making my life easier already. Now, I have this. I'm going to put our insert in, and if you can see, it's not quite tall enough, and it wobbles. So it seems like this is going to have to go on the sander. We'll sand this flat, but I need at least one more row and then one row under the rim. So let's get that done. Let's pick up where we left off back here with these double rows. First of all, I see a boo-boo. This thing in here, I'm not loving it, so I'm gonna reach around inside, outside. I'm gonna try to pull this out because I see I had an overlap right in here, and I'm gonna see if I can work this mistake out. I'm going to trim these all up. I need a little moisture on it as well, so I'm gonna pull these, trim this up so it only goes inside to here. I don't want to see ugly ends inside. So that's pretty nice. Oh, this thing just goes everywhere because it's oval. That's pretty nice. I think I will trim these all up that height. I'll spray only this part here, and in the morning we'll talk about the rim. One more thing before I do that. Before I let you go, I want to make sure that all my rows are tight, and I want to snug these up but not pull them out. That's how I'm going to pack this basket, is by snugging these up, because I want it to be tight, but I don't want to pull it out. So stay tuned. We'll see you in the morning. So I am using 3/8 flat oval. Start right there. Pin, lift it up. I have 1/4 here, and 3/8 is what I'm pinning. So I'm lifting it up, because I'm going to put my round bead in the middle. So I'm just covering the top row of 1/4 inch flat. And I'm going to snip it and taper it. I want a nice taper. I don't want a big old lumpy thing. Well, when I started, I had taken the top off. I do it so automatically, I forgot to videotape it. But I had taken the knife and taken this down. Now I'll pin it in place. And I want this fit very tight, very snug to the outside edge, because when I lace it, I need to pull it. And if I've left a span across here, it's not going to work out terribly well. So I always put my rims on the opposite sides. We'll do that. I like a piece of round reed in the middle. Makes the edge look finished, polished. And so again, automatically go for a nice little taper. There is a scarfing tool you can use for that, but I've been working with this knife for so long. So you can see we have this lip right here. See the inside? It's sitting up. We're going to put the round reed right on the top, and we can make it a sandwich. And that round reed is basically the salami. See how much a nice finished edge that gives? If we hadn't put this round reed in there, I'll show you what your edge would look like. It would look like this. And this is the jewelry. This dresses it right up, makes it look great. I learned this trick back in the 80s. I saw a basket made in New Hampshire at the turn of the century by Native people, and they had done this, and I was fascinated. I thought, oh, that looks so polished, so much nicer on it as an edge. So I had to do it. Now I'm going to grab my quarter flat, and this is why at the beginning it was so important to have your pieces at least 1/4 of an inch apart, because we're going to lace. I can't overlap inside here, so I'm going to butt it right up, but I want it to be close, but not overlap. There's not room in there. So remember I kept talking about getting 1/4 of an inch between your spokes, and here's why. Because we've got a 1/4 inch lacer to poke through these holes, and I don't want to fight with it. I have. Last week I had a girl who, tapering the top, whose basket was so tight, we took 1/4 inch, all I had was 1/4 inch, I didn't have larger stuff at school. I took the 1/4 inch and cut it with scissors down the middle, and don't you know, another student came along with the same thing, and guess what? We get to use that second piece. So where there's a will, there's a way. There we go. Usually 2 times around one of my baskets will give me enough to finish, but with this one, no. 2 times will not do it. It's going to take 2.5 or more. So I'd rather cut off a little bit, wrap around 1 time, 2 times, and 1/2. It's annoying dragging all this through, but it's also more annoying to run out. So this is when all else fails, or what I started with was a teeny tiny screwdriver. Remember, we're only going under this top row, right? This row. So I'm going to find the top. So I pull it through just a little bit, and I don't want to lose the top, because how long did it take me to find that top? So I'm just going to park it. This is what I call park it right there, and get to the business of doing the next tightening this up. So it will look like that. Pull tight. And go around. See how much pulling there is? My son used to hate that sound. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do. I'm pulling this way and pushing with my thumb. And if it starts to back off, simply grab a clothespin and put it to the back. Now I'm going to get this whole thing done for you, and I'll be back. So in here we said we wanted that to butt together. It butts together. It didn't take a lot more than twice around this basket. As you can see, I still did a lot of dragging. And you can see also it's hairy because my gaps were tight. I don't like this overlap too much, so I'm going to shave. Well, let's try this scarfing tool. And this is how that works. So let's take our pins off. Now, because if you can see how close I was here, that's why it's really important in the beginning, because now I'm trying to make an opening and it's shredding my material. So, and I'm gonna get it. And again, I don't need all this, so let's just get rid of it. My worst dread is dragging all that through. And if you have a packing tool, it's great for doing this, making your opening. I have several, I haven't found them yet, but okay. Now I'm here. What do I want to do? I don't want to go back in this hole because it won't look regular. So what I like to do is pry this open just a whisker. And oftentimes I'll put a dab of glue right here so that it'll never pop out, but that it isn't being seen. And I'm going to poke this piece down in my end. This very busy little guy. I'm going to grab it from under here. And I want to pull, pull, pull. So I just want to cut that so we aren't looking at it. Now shape it up. There we go. Shake it out. Okay, and then my bottom. Now, I had kind of fun. My old neighbor, my husband, cut this and made black marks, but since it's being stained dark, it'd be okay. But I wouldn't do that if I were you. I would cut the black marks off. What I had done initially was glue this down, put a clothespin here, glue this one, put a clothespin, and then when they dried, he went in and put these little nails. So now, when you want to work with your tools, you can put this tool in this space, and there it is. Well, that was my goal there. This is the bottom. Whoops. Well, the other thing is that I use the wrong side of the bottom. I use the dimple side, inside. So he's going to have to redo this for me. Oops, I got it on reverse. This is basically I haven't made a lot of these. Certainly I'm not done perfecting them. So we're going to learn together. He has a little mark in there where the hole is, the bottom of this thing. All I have to do is get this screw gun right here. Socks it right down. And there we have it. Now what I will do is, see, it's rocking on the bottom because I put the wrong side down. So this is basically where I am. I want to shape nicely. And then we'll go in, bought some little brads, and we're going to go in here and put a brad straight through to these two places just to hold that rim in place. Well, there we have it, a basket. I'll show you a picture of it when it's stained and finished. Thanks a bunch. See you in class.